Okay, okay. Take your seats. Settle down, settle down. Welcome to the Road to Concord 101. This class is about all things connected to the path of history leading from Mount Sinai to Lexington Green and the individual liberty and freedom of man. If you're in the wrong place, feel free to get up and go see the registrar's office about dropping this class, preferably before you meet the professor. In the event you do not already know this, your professor is Joe Bakanovic, and he has a bit of a reputation on campus. He is most definitely an acquired taste, but if you can learn to tolerate him, he will make you better at defending your position, whatever it may be. I'm T.A. Charlie. I'm here to help the professor, but more importantly, you. We encourage you to take notes, and if you have questions, feel free to call. If you'd like the number, please email us. You can also post your questions in the comments, and we'll get the professor's attention. Part of my job is to let you know a little bit about your professor. As I said earlier, the professor has that bit of a reputation on campus. Not all of it is good. Let me help explain a little with a story about how I came to be the professor's TA. I was invited to attend one of his classes. My first impression of the professor was that he was an egotistical, narcissistic know-it-all. My intent after only a few minutes of class was never to attend another class with this professor. But after class, Professor Joe came up to me and thanked me for my class participation and told me that my perspective was valuable, and he asked me to keep coming to class. This actually took me back a little. To me, he seemed inconsistent. What was I to do? I decided to continue coming to his classes. As I did, I actually started doing what he does encourage students to do. Check behind him and see if what he is teaching is actually correct. I have done this over and over again, and generally speaking, I found what he teaches to be backed by sound, valid, and rational arguments from reputable sources. When I have challenged him and provided a sound, valid, and rational argument in opposition to his current position, he immediately changed his position and thanked me for correcting him. Why do I tell you all this? Professor Joe is a little rough around the edges, especially in the way he delivers his content. But if you stick with him and listen to what he teaches and then go and check his sources, you will likely find, as I did, he will help you better understand the world around you and help you to think better and hopefully to live better. At least that is our hope. One last note. This class builds on itself. Therefore, it is important to attend class regularly. We will not always have time to go over previously covered material. If you are new, we suggest you watch our older classes. We've created playlists to help you with those things we feel are of special importance. Now, let's get started.
Good morning. It's Monday, September 29th, 2025. I wish it was 1900 or whatever. Marianne's already commented, says, good morning from Tallahassee. Wasn't that terrible what happened in Michigan? In case you don't know, that was a shooting. Guy drove his vehicle into a Mormon church and shot a bunch of folks up. You know, and another one of those evil right-wing hate monger terrorists. Even though he was one of these guys, from the reports, if you can believe the media these days, he had all sorts of I hate Trump paraphernalia in his world. So I look, man, make sure you get with your pastor or your priest or whatever and make some arrangements for security with your congregation for when y'all are meeting. The enemy is out there and he is roaring like a ravenous lion, and he's looking to eat up anybody and everybody that claims the name of the Messiah, whether it's an apostate claim of the Messiah or not, doesn't matter. He's going after anybody that claims to believe in the Bible. So just Be ready for that, just in case. Remember, the scripture does allow for and even commands self-defense and defense of the innocent. It is a commandment. So, all right. I wanted to start today. Show is about when will we recognize the American left has become a terrorist organization. I mean that literally, and I'm very serious about this. I'm not kidding. When are we going to recognize it? I'm wondering whether or not President Trump actually has. He's starting to use the military to combat leftist terrorism in this country. Good. That's legal. It's appropriate and it's constitutional. And if you'll stick with me before the end of this show today, I'm going to prove to you that he has a duty to use the military against this, not law enforcement. This is not a law enforcement issue. Now, we're going to start from the beginning. How many of y'all remember this pretty little picture? That's the Fabian Socialists' stained glass window. It says, remold it nearer to the heart's desire. Remold the world. New world order. By other words, but that is, yes, exactly what they're talking about. And what's going on here is the guy on the left is operating the billows to fan the flames to heat up the world, which is in the center there on the right between the guy in the red and the green. They're heating up the world, and the other guy in the red is hitting it with a hammer. Both of them are hitting it with a hammer to shape it closer to what they want it to be. It says, pray devoutly, hammer stoutly. Well, they're not religious. They're socialists, and they're of a communist bent. They don't really mean religion. Notice and how do I know that? Well, their own logo is the wolf in sheep's clothing. They subvert from within. That's the whole purpose of the Fabian Society, to overthrow the world from within its existing systems. Now, the Fabians established in 1895. And then along comes the world's first fascist dictator by the name of Woodrow Wilson. And he dreams of overthrowing the United States government as founded by creating a deep state within it. He's going to be, whoops, I forgot to remove that. My bad. Wilson's going to create a government within the government, a deep state. And we've gone over this before. We've shown you where he flat out says this is what he's going to do. This is on the road to Concord. The scaffolding is coming down. Before I read Wilson's words, I want to read a quote that I have for you. I won't tell you where it comes from, but it says, I said to myself, behold, I have magnified and increased wisdom more than all who were over Jerusalem before me. And my mind has observed a wealth of wisdom and knowledge. And I set my mind to know wisdom and to know madness and a folly. I realized that this also is striving after the wind, because in much wisdom there is much grief, and increasing knowledge results in increasing pain. Wisdom, folks, is not education. It is not intelligence. Wisdom is something very different. But in this article, I quoted a section from Woodrow Wilson. What is a progressive? Written in 1913. So the Fabians come along 1895. 1913, we have Woodrow Wilson. Okay. We're going to jump back. We're going to do a little bit of this flashback, jump forward, flashback, jump forward thing for a minute. Wilson wrote this in 1913, but he was working on it years before then. He says, quote, well, we are architects in our time, and our architects are also engineers. We don't have to stop using a railroad terminal because a new station is being built. We don't have to stop any of the processes of our lives because we are rearranging the structures in which we conduct those processes. What we have to undertake is to systematize the foundations of the house, then to thread all the old parts of the structure with steel, which will be laced together in a modern fashion, accommodated to all the modern knowledge of structural strength and elasticity, and then slowly change the partitions, relay the walls, let in the light through new apertures, improve the ventilation, until finally, a generation or two from now, the scaffolding will be taken away, and there will be the family in a great building whose noble architecture will at least be disclosed, where men can live as a single community, cooperative as in a perfected, coordinated beehive, not afraid of any storm of nature, not afraid of any artificial storm, any imitation of thunder and lightning, knowing that the foundations go down to the bedrock of principle, and knowing that whenever they please, they can change that plan again and accommodate it as they please to the altering necessities of their lives. Now, what is that jackwagon talking about? Essentially, deep state. I do not like Woodrow Wilson. I apologize. I shouldn't have used the words I just did. I'm trying to be better. I don't like Wilson because I don't like his ideas. I don't like what he did. I don't like the way he did it. Wilson wrote that, and that's the blueprint for how to subvert the United States, how to overthrow the United States of America as it was founded. That's the blueprint that they've been using. So the Fabians in 1895, Wilson writes that in 1913. Well, now I want to take you to something else, something that happened in 1905. We've been over this previously in class when we did the book study on the American Covenant. This is from my Kindle reader on the American Covenant, Socialism in America. September of 1905, a group of 5 young socialists met in Lower Manhattan to plan to replace and suppress the predominantly Christian worldview that still pervaded America. That's what they're really after, folks. They're not after capitalism. This is what they're after. The organization was called the Intercollegiate Socialist Society. Their purpose was to promote an intelligent interest in socialism amongst college men and women. This is the Rhodes Foundation work, maybe even before the Rhodes Foundation existed. These men were ready to become the exponents of an idea passed on to them by an obscure writer named Karl Marx, a man who never tried to be self-supporting but was financed by wealthy industrialists who, inexplicably, believed in his theory of dictatorship of the proletariat. And that's dictatorship of the masses. That's 51 out of 100 people tell the 49 what to do. Dictatorship of the supposed morally better working class. I'm not going to get into all the ramifications of that idea. I'll just keep reading. Although a small group in the beginning, these adherents to socialism more than succeeded in their task by using the prove-it method of gradualism. That's progressivism, folks, by another name, taken from the Roman general Quintus Fabius Maximus. These men and others who joined them slowly infiltrated their ideas onto the college campuses and into the public schools of our nation. By 1912, there were chapters in 44 colleges. By 1917, there were 61 chapters in schools, 12 in graduate schools. In 1921, they changed their name to the League of Industrial Democracy and entered the mainstream of American education elite. By the mid-1930s, there were 125 chapters of the student study groups of the League for Industrial Democracy. At that time, John Dewey, the grandfather of progressive education, was the vice president of the League. By 1941, Dewey had become president, and Reinhold Niebuhr, the liberal socialist theologian, was the treasurer. Today, as a result of the efforts of many minorities of men who dared to study and propagate their ideas, which were indisputably abhorrent to the character of predominantly Christian nation, their philosophy has become dominant in America's cultural spheres. This has become the SDS, Students for Democratized Society, or whatever the heck. These are the same people. Starts in 1895, moves to the United States, gets going in 1905. Upton Sinclair was one of them. 1913 to 1917, Woodrow Wilson starts talking about this. It's gradualism. Wilson coins the term progressivism. That's how he's going to use it for this, what he means, gradualism. What Wilson then says is, let's keep using these universities. It had already started to evangelize the intelligentsia of the United States of America, the ruling elite. and we will convert them. Essentially, this is the same idea that Adolf Hitler had when he said, why should I nationalize the industry when I can just nationalize the people? And what did Hitler really mean? He says, I'll just convert the people to think my way. I'll just convince them to do what I want them to do, the way I want them to do it, and I don't have to control their industry. They'll just naturally do what I want them to do. This is the same idea. Only what Wilson was going to do is make sure he controlled all the leadership, their thinking. So if over time he could establish a school of elite colleges, you know it as the Ivy League, and he could train the people coming through there, then what would happen is those who agreed with his ideology and agenda would get into positions of influence and leadership and power, both politically, in industry, and in the media. And they would make sure that they hired, they would create a culture that would just naturally hire the same type of people, same type of mindset. And eventually you'd have a homogeneous lockstep group of people who thought and acted the same way. You wouldn't have to force it on them. They would just naturally perpetuate the system you're trying to create. And if you could also move this down into the school system, you could do that with the masses as well. So this is where we start. We were warned about some of this. Okay, the first book that warned us is this one by Aldous Huxley, Brave New World, published in 1932. Now, Huxley imagines sex, drugs, and education as a means of public control. Do we have a hookup culture in this country now? Yep. Do we have sexual licentiousness and immorality? Yeah, we got a rainbow jihad even running around. So, yep, we got that. Do we have a drug culture in our society? Yep. Are we talking about just illegal drugs, or are we talking about things like Ritalin, which are meant to control, rebellious boys and guys who might otherwise buck the... Oh, yeah, we've got that. Do we have a system that just wants to mind numb you with antidepressants? Oh, yep, okay. So we have a drug culture too. Now, do we have an education system that indoctrinates you? Instead of in educating you and informing you, it indoctrinates you and turns you into an apathetic little drone. Do we have an education system that does that? Yep, check. So what Huxley saw was a system designed to distract you and make you apathetic. Okay, got it. That succeeded. So what else do we have? After that, in 1932, we're going to have this one, 1949, George Orwell. Now, George Orwell foresaw a system built on hate and war, using TVs and the media to monitor and evangelize and propagate the ideology. The 5-minute hate, and we're going to fight this country tomorrow and that country the day after that, and we've always been at war with that country, and no, we've always been at war with this guy, over and over and over again. The perpetual war system. And you're going to have a TV monitoring everything you do, watching you everywhere you go. And the TV is going to tell you what to think and how to think it. And Big Brother is always watching. So do we have a culture that pushes hate? Yeah, hate speech. I can hate Whitey because of racism, and I can hate Christians because they're white supremacists and white national Christianity, Christian nationalism and all this other stuff. I can hate those groups. And you hate the LGBT community and it's Islam, it's a homophobia. And you hate Islam because it's Islamophobia. And it's all about the focus, when you look at it, is all about the Judeo-Christian ethic of the Western world. That's what they're really after. So where Huxley foresaw distraction and apathy, Orwell foresaw constant surveillance and force. So the system is going to force it on you, to force you to stay in line. These things have not gone anywhere. If I look, I see them in my society today. Don't you? Then we're going to have this science that Wilson talked about. Well, what they did is they got into MK Ultra, and they were looking at the limits of the sheep. How far could they push the sheep? The people, the sheeple. They were also looking at the limits of how far that they could shape, mold, and direct popular opinion. What were the limits of propaganda, and what were the limits of human nature? And once they found what they thought these limits were and how to manipulate it, they how do I propagate this everywhere? And that's Mockingbird. So when you understand that they have studied, they've had other, the Milner experiment and everything, all these experiments to see just how far you will go in obedience to authority. And then the school system starts teaching you to just be obedient rather than a free thinker. And free thinkers are beat down. We don't want them because, like Dewey said, the child who learns to think for themselves threatens the coming order that's being built. Their socialist utopia that they're trying to build. A free thinker will threaten that. So what you have now is MK Ultra telling them how far they can go and how to do it. And Mockingbird is the implementation of their propaganda control methodology. Now, if you doubt that that's what's going on, I'm going to quote I think it was Voltaire. Those who can convince you of absurdities can get you to commit atrocities. Okay, well, what's an absurdity, Joe? That a man can become a woman and a woman can become a man. Those are absurdities. Or that tearing a city apart, burning it down, looting, and murdering people, that's just a mostly peaceful protest. But a false flag attack on the Capitol, organized, instigated, and led by government operatives, that's a natural uprising. That's a groundswell, grassroots seditious attack. And the reason that so many of the people in this country believe that is because that's what the media told them. Mockingbird. And the sheep just believe it because the powers that be realize that the sheep are programmed just naturally, human nature, to follow authority. So they know that the majority of the people in this country are going to believe the lies. Well, once I get you to believe absurdities, I'm going to be able to get you to commit atrocities. The unborn is not a person. So you will murder people to the likes of which that make the Holocaust and the murder from Stalin and the murders of Mao look like child's play compared to what this nation alone has done since Roe v. Wade. Okay. And then you even have things like NBC's Law and Order SVU. Just recently, just this last week or so, portraying ICE as villains who protect pedophiles and rapists and arrest the police, the good police. It's a 180-degree rule in practice here, folks. They're lying. They're telling the population that they're the good guys. They're the ones trying to protect them from things like this when they're actually the ones doing it. Okay, it's NCIS and no pin here. You keep saying, hey, you're the bad guys. No, there's no bad guys here. We checked. Well, yeah, you checked on yourself. So we're programmed in school this way. It starts in elementary school. It's reinforced in college. And the programming is maintained by the media, not just the news media, by popular cultural media, your movies and your TV shows and your music. This is in the school system. When you get to the Ivy League, Wilson's elite training, and then it's nepotism. You intermarry just like the feudalist states did, where all of the families intermarried. Now, there's a reason for that, and it had more to do with just people look at it and say, let's just maintain power. Oh, there's power going on there. There's also spiritual aspect to why they intermarried so much, but it was also political, and there are multiple reasons. You can look at it spiritually or materially and come up with explanations for both. But what you have here, and if you go back to the progressives, how many people in the mainstream media, the news media, are intermarried with business tycoons and politicians? Have you ever checked that? I've told you to do it before. There's a huge intermarrying going on here. It's nepotism. This person's son is in this. The government's riddled with this. This is the good old boy system and the good old girl system. Like I told you, this way they make sure they get their people in charge of everything. And that's why their people never go to jail. And anybody who gets out of line does. Well, you had somebody who told you that this is exactly what was going on, but you didn't understand because he was a progressive and he was using progressive speak. Who used to tell you that politics is Hollywood for ugly people? It's an open admission to what I just explained. It was Rush Limbaugh. And that instead of telling you that the leadership of the Republican Party were progressives too. He called them country club blue bloods and intoned that they're rhinos. No, they're not rhinos. They are true blue Republicans doing what they're supposed to do. We've tried to introduce you to this as well. This is 1966 now. Carroll Quigley, Tragedy and Hope, A History of the World in Our Time. What did Quigley tell us? Said that the two parties are actually one party pretending to be two so that they can control you. It's like a pressure release valve. You get pissed off at the Republicans, you vote them out, you vote in the Democrats. Policy never changes, though. You get pissed off at the Democrats, you vote them out, you vote in the Republicans. Policy never changes, though, because they're the same party. Okay? Oh, poppycock, Joe. All right, well, fine. Let me show you something else then. This is a visual representation of how it works. The ratchet effect. The two parties are playing their part. The Democrats keep moving everything to the left. The Republicans block movement back to the right. Now stop and think. Get your memories out. How often has this happened? And what do? We complain, oh, the rhinos again. We got to get the rhinos out of there. We need more Republicans that aren't rhinos. See, they got you doing exactly what they trained you to do. You're going to give them more Republicans who are then going to turn, oh, it's more rhinos. Man, we're never going to. Yes, you're never going to win as long as you're playing the game. You are doing exactly what they want you to do. They don't care how much you complain and grumble and whatever. But this is why when something that's actually for real comes up, like the Tea Party, both parties will immediately jump on it and attack it. Even Rush Limbaugh did it first. Then once they destroyed the movement, then they turned the idea of the Tea Party toward the Republican Party. That's when Rush became an adherent to the Tea Party. I remember that's when I finally turned Rush off, when he was anti-Tea Party when it first came out. And the Republicans were saying the Tea Party was DOA. We saw a repeat of it with MAGA. MAGA rallies around Trump. And this is a very difficult situation to discuss because MAGA is not Trump. Trump is not MAGA. Trump just brought MAGA. MAGA is the Tea Party. MAGA is the group of Americans with a C, not a K. Why do I say that? There was a movement back in the 70s. America spelt with a K. In other words, socialist, communist America. That's what they wanted. They spelt America with a K. Good luck looking it up. Occasionally, it gets stuck back up on Wikipedia, and Wikipedia pulls it back down. They don't want you to know that. Say, Joe, well, if I can't find it, that means you're lying. Want to bet? I've got the printed out stories for this in my files. That's why I keep hard copies. They can't erase that electronically. But nobody will believe you. Okay. That's going to depend on whether or not you trust me for these things or not. But I know it's true. I've done the work. I found it. I proved it to myself. So I don't care whether or not you believe me. I know it's true. So when you come up with these group of Americans with a C who want to preserve the country as it was originally founded by the founding fathers, and the ideals and principles upon which it was founded, individual rights, individual liberties. Republican government that protects the rights of every individual, not by group or minority groups or by social groups, or we don't have to, no socialism, because that takes from one to provide for another. And the author of the Constitution said the Constitution doesn't allow for that. So when you find these groups, Tea Party, MAGA, whatever they may be called, and they start to actually cause real waves, both parties will come after them. And they're doing that. They're still attacking MAGA. So because Trump was the leader, they had to go after Trump. They're still going after Trump. That's what the real fight is. Now, the deep state, which is what Woodrow Wilson wanted, subversion from within. You have the deep state. The DNC advances the ball. The GOP defends it, makes sure you don't get the ball going back the other way. And the judiciary takes over legislation. Because the Congress, House and Senate has become Hollywood for ugly people. It's all kabuki theater. The judiciary is the one actually writing our laws and enforcing it. Have you noticed the stories I've been showing you? Supreme Court allows president to do his job. Since when does the judiciary have commandment over the executive? And since when does an executive ask the judiciary for permission? Now, in Trump's case, I still haven't figured out, is this because he's part of the game, Or is it because he just isn't ideological enough to understand basic civics and what his authority is? Charlie, did you have something?
Yeah. Right.
Oh, okay. I got you. Bottom of the hour. So real quick, let me finish up with my thought and then we'll go to the break. So you got the judiciary, then you have the bureaucracies. They're actually doing the governing. The judiciary is legislating and enforcing, doing the executive and the legislator's job. The bureaucracies are doing the executive's job. And it's all politically united. The government's been weaponized. We are being attacked from within. It's a war. We'll cover that when we come back. 3-minute break, bottom of the hour. We'll see you in 3. Thank you, Charlie. All right, we're back. Real quick show note. I said we would be continuing with our book study this Friday. Nope, I'd forgotten about something. That's our congregation is keeping Day of Atonement that day. So there will be no show on Friday this week. Sorry about that. Faulty memory, getting old. All right, we left off with Woodrow Wilson building his deep state inside of our existing government. That's what he was talking about. Building a deep state is a government within a government. That's called subversion, folks. And it's illegal according to the United States of America and our laws. This is Wordnik, the definition of subversion: to overthrow or destroy, specifically a government or an established order of authority. Overthrow, to undermine or overturn or to render ineffective a rule or an established notion such as a stereotype or whatever, but it's also to undermine the government. And when you start using force, even if it's asymmetrical, now you're into sedition. Sedition is a conduct or language inciting rebellion against the authority of a state. specifically like we have going on in Chicago and Portland right now, and in Washington, D.C., and in New York, and in just about any place where the liberals control a city. It's a rebellion. Now, war. A contest, this is 1828 dictionary, Webster's, a contest between nations or states carried on by force, either for defense or for revenging insults and redressing wrongs, for the extension of commerce or acquisition of territory, or for obtaining and establishing the superiority and dominion of one over the other. So see, Joe, this can't be a war because we don't have a... Oh, wait a minute. I just told you it's a deep state. It's our government fighting the remnant of our government. Well, you got no proof of that. Yes, I do. Just like Rush Limbaugh admitted what they were doing, so did the deep state. You build a new government within an old. Then what you have, that's the idea. You have the top down. So the intelligentsia comes up with this idea and teaches it to those below them and pushes it down into the masses and riles them up with hatred and feelings of being wronged somehow, injustice, make them feel like they have the moral high ground, which is what's happening with your rainbow jihad. You know, they're becoming a real terrorist problem in this country, the LGBT community. They're shooting people up, killing them, and they feel justified because they think it's self-defense. You also have, the BLM movement. Well, it's because police are racist and the government's racist, and this is a racist country, so we've got to defend ourselves. And Antifa, because the government's fascist and we've got to defend ourselves from fascism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you get people riled up. That's bottom up, top down, bottom up. The bottom up creates chaos and anger, terrorism. We have stories on the wires of the real media, the real press these days, the internet, because you can't trust what they call the legacy media, mainstream media. No, that's propaganda mill for the deep state. You've got to go to bloggers now to get the real media or blog sites. And we have one where there's a leftist out there, a well-known leftist that has not been shut down by the social media. He's broadcasting out there. He wants the left to make sure that the right is afraid to go to public meetings because they're afraid they're going to be shot. That's the very definition of terrorism. And the fact that the social media has not shut them down tells you that social media is behind his voice. They are in agreement. And the fact that the American government has not shut them down and said, well, you know, they're a private organization, we can't do anything, that tells you the government's behind it. Because no, that's inciting murder. That is illegal. If YouTube allows that person to keep broadcasting or whoever, the government can shut it down because it's an illegal action. So that tells you that this is all organized. Now you have Van Jones, top down, bottom up, inside out. What does he mean? The top down creates the system, creates the government within a government, creates the ideas that gives you a crisis that causes the bottom to rise up and create terror and chaos. So then inside out, I give you the new government. I drop the scaffolding. I give you the new government. Capitalism has failed. Democracy has failed. The only thing that works is dictatorship, blah, 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 blah. And you have the government that Woodrow Wilson wanted. So Van Jones has told you straight up on broadcast nightly news exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it. Nobody listens. Nobody cares. Nobody knows how to speak progressive. Threats of violence, advocacy and defended by our political leadership, by our supposed media, and the support of political murder. Jimmy Kimmel, that's what he was doing. He was blaming the other side, the victim side in this, and accusing the victims of being the violent ones. He was giving them cover. That's called aid and comfort. And he was doing it in the media, on broadcast air. And he was taken off, but then Disney put him back on, and a couple of organizations boycotted him, but they put him back on. All of these major corporations are all run by Democrats, folks. Go look that up. The Fortune 500, there are very few Republican members controlling their boards. These are all Democrats that came through the Ivy League schools. So this is part of what I'm telling you. It's part of the web of the organization. This is terrorism being rewarded. Okay. What they're doing is fighting an asymmetrical war. What is that, Joe? Well, okay, let me show you. This is the Merriam-Webster's dictionary. Asymmetrical warfare. Warfare that is between opposing forces which differ greatly in military power and that typically involve the use of unconventional weapons and tactics, such as those associated with guerrilla war and terrorist attacks. So they're not strong enough. The left wing is not the radical left wing, which is really the left wing, not strong enough to do this. And then here's Britannica. Asymmetrical warfare, unconventional strategies and tactics adopted by a force when the military capabilities of the belligerent, of the attacker, powers are not simply unequal, but are so significantly different that they cannot make the same sort of attacks on each other. In other words, guerrilla warfare and terrorism. Well, that's Antifa. This is from an old dead blog site of mine, but this is Antifa and the American left, modern equivalents of the black shirts and brown shirts. I published this in 2020, I believe. I'll give this to Charlie if he wants to share it. I'll let him decide on that. That's up to him. All right, because I hadn't planned on sharing it. But if you go through it, it gives you the history of Antifa and the fact that they are actually black shirts and brown shirts were the fascists, and Antifa is fighting the fascists. Oh, that's right. Antifa were communists. Yes, straight up communists. This is the picture from back in Germany's in 1933. On the left, it's the German language version. On the right, it's the oh, that hasn't changed a bit. None of it. Antifa's not new. Antifa is international. It's part of the international, Communist Party. There's a very good video in here that gives you the history of this. And then if you go down, you may not like him, but Glenn Beck will give you the history of Antifa right there. It's very good. You have to inform yourself. But Antifa is literally the military arm of the communist wing taking over this country. And what was it that Woodrow Wilson wanted the United States? Oh, that's right. Wilson wanted us to be communist. We've covered that on this show, but he knew that the American people wouldn't go for that. So he had to institute communism progressively, incrementally, little by little. Tiny steps, and he was going to do it through the school system to create an intelligentsia that would infiltrate the government and create a government within a government. Oh, exactly like what we've seen. Exactly like Carol Quigley told us they were doing. So now you have Antifa and BLM and Occupy. These are all supposedly, they're left-wing folks. Don't even argue with this. They're well-funded, and they are well-organized. They're trained. They are actually trained. They're now having a National Rifle Association, not the NRA, but there's Socialist Rifle Association of America or something or other. They're training the Antifa people how to shoot. And these people dress in paramilitary gear. They're violent. They have a political agenda. And if you will remember back in 2020, when all the rioting started in Portland and everything, they stated their agenda was to overthrow the United States of America. Well, there was a gentleman who infiltrated Antifa back then, and his name is Andy New. And he wrote a book about what happened to him. He was beat almost to death by these folks when they found out. Inside Antifa's radical plan to destroy democracy. What he means is destroy the United States of America as it was founded. That's their plan. That's their stated goal. Tucker Carlson said, read this book. All right, so if your stated goal is to overthrow the United States and you're using terror and pseudo-military tactics, guerrilla tactics, asymmetrical warfare, folks, this is no longer a law enforcement issue. This is a military issue. And we need to start using the military against it. We'll get to that in a minute. But these people are well-funded. Trump is finally going after Soros, but it's not just Soros. It's also all of the NGOs, non-government organizations. It's corporations. It's Fortune 500 companies because they fund this too. It's USAID and foreign aid. It's taxpayer money that comes back to these NGOs. We know that several $1 billion of the money that Joe Biden, told the people in Ukraine, you either do what I tell you or $8 billion not coming to you. Well, they got to keep $1 billion of it. $7 billion went back to a bank in Lithuania or Latvia or something like that, and then got divvied up, and $1 billion of it went to the Biden family, and $4 billion of it went to a bank in Cincinnati, and then got lost going to Antifa, which is one of the it was BLM that was getting the money, but it got divided up from there, and it's one of the reasons you have all these BLM people with mansions. This is all funded, and nobody wants to go look into it. And then you have the unions and corporations that give kickbacks to the politicians in the form of campaign donations. It's all well funded, well organized. This is a military attack on the United States. Now let's go to Portland. This also happened in Chicago, but it's happening right now. This will be the most recent. Portland, political leadership there, they're protecting the illegals. They call it a sanctuary state, but no, that's not what that is. That's harboring a fugitive. It's illegal in this country. And now they're threatening the feds. They're saying, if you come, we'll react appropriately. In other words, that's a threat of violence against a rightfully elected and instituted government of the United States, conducting lawful actions. The federal government has laws on the books that are constitutional, mandating that they do what they're doing in Portland. So now what you're going to do is you got these people in Portland downsizing the police and demonizing the police and refusing to prosecute these violent criminals, the Antifa and BLM people, and the violence increases. The media protects them by saying they're mostly peaceful protests, even though they're screaming for the overthrow of the United States. All of this pushes the leftism, the left-wing politicizing and fanning the flames. The politicians do this. It's inciting hatred, fear, and violence. Fear leads to terrorism, spontaneous terrorism. Here. Do you see this? The White House releases a list of political agitators, blames Democrats' Gestapo rhetoric for a Dallas ICE attack, and 1,000% surge in assaults on federal agents. And come down here, and we have a list. Governor Tim Walz, Governor Gavin Newsom. Oh, he's very guilty. That man should be in jail right now. Governor J.B. Pritzker. Representative Robin Kelly, Representative Jasmine Crockett, Representative Sylvia Garcia, Representative Delilah Ramirez, Representative Pramila J. Powell, Representative Rashida Tlaib, who should be in jail for immigration fraud, Representative Ayanna Pressley, Representative Max Frost, Representative John Larson, Representative LaMonica McIver, Representative Stephen Lynch, Representative Don Goldman, Representative Becca Belliant, Representative Ilhan Omar, another one who should be in jail, Representative Nikki Budnitsky, Senator Bernie Sanders, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Representative Hakeem Jeffries, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, Representative Gil Cisneros, Representative Eric Swalwell, Representative Alexandria Cortez, or Representative Kwesi Mfume, Representative Jeffrey Nadler. These are just a few. These are just a few who are actively fomenting subversion and sedition against the United States of America. We refuse to out Antifa and the left that organizes them and funds them. Antifa is the military arm. It's the communist black shirts, the communist brown shirts. They are the military arm of the communist subversive aspects of this country. And you have to use them because they don't have a straight up military. Our military would not yet fully turn against this country. It's getting there, though. This is why they put non-citizens in our military. This is why they allow illegal aliens in our military. This is why they allow criminals, mostly gang members, in our military. I was shocked when I researched this. This is Rome. This is Rome turning our military, our defense, over to mercenaries. And it's also why they were pushing people out of the military for political, for refusing to get the jab and religious objections and stuff like this. They're purifying the military so that they could get more people who will listen to them, so that they don't need Antifa. They can just use the military to do this. This is an attack on the United States of America, and it's being funded, organized, and pushed by American left-wing ideology. But the problem is it's not happening fast enough. They're getting impatient. You got to remember, communists believe in the revolution. So they start looking around. They need more money. They need more help. And they look, oh, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So they create an unholy alliance. Y'all remember this? 2004. David Horowitz, 2004. Since at least 2004. 9/11 was 2000. 3 years later, the Democratic Party has locked arms with quote unquote radical Islam. There's no such thing as unradical Islam. There's Sunni and Shia. There is no such thing as peaceful Islam. Islam means submission. like a submissive to her master in S&M stuff. Yeah, that's exactly what it means. That's the word. I've looked it up in a lexicon, Arab lexicon, Arabic. I know what I'm talking about. Find it. Go check me. Dare you. Go ahead. Go prove me wrong. Good luck. Don't go look it up on these people these Muslims telling you what it is. Go look it up in an Arabic lexicon. Come on back. I know what you're going to find. Horowitz told us that this was happening. Well, that's exactly why nobody said anything when Obama brought the Muslim Brotherhood into the White House more than any other organization. The Muslim Brotherhood is a quote-unquote unindicted Muslim terrorist organization. You remember the Holy Lands Foundation? The FBI refused to do what it should have done back. Oh, that's right. That's that corrupt, weaponized FBI under Obama. This is all tied to Islam. Islam's stated purpose is to overthrow the United States of America. The left is in cahoots with them, thinking that once they get rid of what's left of quote-unquote right-wing conservatism, then they'll deal with Islam. I got a little newsflash for them. It's going to be the other way around. Just look to England right now and see what's happening. England is now allowing Sharia law. Right now they say it's voluntary, but they're allowing it. England is defending the Islamic rape gangs that walk the streets raping English citizens because they're not Muslims. That's allowed in Islamic law. Sharia law allows for that. So now, what do we make of all of this? What do we do with it all? Well, if you're going to look at this worldly, this is an act of war against the United States of America from within the United States government. And it's at all levels of government. It's at all levels of corporate America. It's at all levels of corporate entertainment industry. And it is at all levels of the public education system, both university and grade school. I don't know how you're going to purge that. This has all been coordinated over at least 130 years, minimum. Now, you could look at this like from a micro level and say, Joe, these are all just a bunch of coincidences. Okay, if you're going to look at it micro, incident by incident, story by story, point by point, you're not going to see it. But if you look at it at the macro, you get up the 50,000 foot level. Right there, baby, staring me in the face. I got 130 years plus of consistent direction, marching toward the destruction of this country. And what is it they want to destroy? The Judeo-Christian system of this nation, which includes the Protestant work ethic and the free market. Now, since when does humanity work that consistently over that many generations and that many different people and still maintain its same vector, velocity vector, its same objective and direction? It doesn't. So now how are you going to explain that? And how are you going to explain that what the left is really attacking is faith, quote unquote, God, family, quote unquote, the old rainbow jihad, and patriotism, quote unquote, racist nation from the founding, evil from the founding, nothing good about this nation, the Judeo-Christian work ethic? Show me how you're going to explain that in mere physical, quote unquote, scientific terms. Good luck. Now, if you're inclined to look at it just that way, well, you're one of the victims at best, because you were taught to replace the spiritual eyes with reason. And reason is man as his own God. A la Ayn Rand. I've told you before, I have a love-hate relationship with her. Mostly love. But where she was wrong badly. And it's not Ayn Rand. I just pick on her because the ideology and people I really have a problem with are the libertarians, sovereign citizens. Libertarianism was tried, folks. It was called the Articles of Confederation. It failed. Why do you want to go back to a dead idea? Oh, well, you didn't do it right. Oh, how very progressive of you. Those are the words of every socialist. Oh, you didn't socialism them enough, hard enough. It doesn't work. That's my real problem with that. But now if I look at this spiritually, well, then that's easy to see. But I want to take you back to something else. I posted this one not too long ago. It's the deep state is the culmination of Woodrow Wilson's plan to overthrow the American government. Let's go reread, like Cicero, It says, to be ignorant of what occurred before you were born is to remain always a child. For what is the worth of a human life unless it is woven into the life of our ancestors by records of history? So in other words, let's look and see what's happened in the past. Let's reread Wilson's words, only this time in that brownish red color. I'm going to put in what Wilson actually meant. I'm going to translate progressive ease for you. Well, we are architects in our time, in other words, revolutionaries. And our architects are also engineers. In other words, we think we're scientists. We don't have to stop using railroad terminals because a new station is being built. Stop using the current governmental system. We don't have to stop any of the processes of our lives because we are rearranging the structures in which we conduct those processes. In other words, they can keep on using the current system while they infiltrate and subvert it from within. What we have to undertake is to systematize the foundations of the house, subvert the foundations of the Constitution, and replace it with our new ideas. Then thread all the old parts of the structure with the steel, which will be laced together in modern fashion. Replace the Constitution with bureaucracies and left-wing socialist communist ideology. Accommodate to all the modern knowledge of the structural strength and elasticity. Adopt the socialist paradigm without letting the voters know what we are doing. And then slowly change the partitions. Subversion by small steps, aka progressive steps, what Maximilian called incrementalism. Relay the walls, let in the light through new apertures, improve the ventilation until finally a generation or two from now, the scaffolding will be taken away. The old original system will have been destroyed. And there will be the family in a great building whose noble architecture will at last be disclosed. The revolution will be complete and the deep state revealed. You'll all be one people, communist utopia, where men can live as a single community, the collective ideal by whatever name. Cooperative as in a perfect coordinated beehive, meaning Wilson believes he and his architects will have transformed human nature through government. In other words, reinstated Eden. They're God, and they're going to reinvent utopia. It says, not afraid of any storm of nature, not afraid of any artificial storm, blah, 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 blah. In other words, in short, believing man will have shown himself to be God. His words, not mine. I translated them. Yeah, Joe, that you put words in his mouth. No, I didn't. I'm taking what he's written in other places that I know darn well you're not going to go read. And I'm just translating it for you. Because he's writing in code there so that you will, oh, that sounds so good, and not realize what he's saying. Those are dog whistles for the ignorant sheep amongst us. And the Republican Party knows it. And this is why the left always says the Republicans speak in dog whistles, because they do, because they're progressives. They're part of the uniparty. So when the left complains about the right, what they're actually saying is our partner here is not cooperating and helping us get things done as fast as we want them, because the partner is fascist. In the political left in America, the Democrat, fascist, GOP, communist Democrats. And that's why we look to have a hybrid fascist/communist system in this country right now. Yes, sir.
So what you're saying is that fundamentally transforming America and make America great again are the same thing?
Yes. Only one of them is going to fundamentally transform us into a caliphate, although his democratic people thought he meant socialist utopia.
Right.
And make America great again means Bull Moose Party, and we're going to make ourselves an empire. Have you not noticed that Trump has been reinstating the Monroe Doctrine? Is he not moving his military adventures from overseas into our hemisphere? Venezuela and the drug cartels in Mexico and
that is
saber rattling. He's back to the Monroe Doctrine.
Oh, yeah.
That's Republican right-wing empire.
Yeah.
That's fascism.
I love this show. Are we going to go another hour, or are we going to wrap up?
No. I'm going to wrap up.
I don't know what you're going to do. Okay.
We're just going to wrap it up right here with a question for all of y'all.
Yeah.
How's your spiritual warfare going, brothers and sisters? Because if you can't see that this is spiritual, I don't know why you're at this show. You're in the wrong class. Go see the registrar, because you're in the wrong place, boys and girls. This is a spiritual battle for the heart and soul of the American people and for humanity. If you step back and look at it, wipe away everything you think you know. Is the left really after capitalism? No. It's after the free market. Why? Because the free market will allow for a strong middle class. Does the left really want a middle class? No. Why? Because a middle class doesn't need them and cannot be controlled. Does the middle class, not the middle class, does the left really want to educate you? No. Because education teaches you how to think, not what to think. And a person who knows how to think is the first one that the left wants to eliminate. Does the left really want freedom of religion? No, especially the Judeo-Christian religion. Does the left really want patriotism? No. So what is the left really after? The Judeo-Christian ethic. Why? Because they want to reinstitute their religious doctrines, either secular humanist, where man is his own God, or an apostate religion, such as Islam. We're in a war. And the supposed our side won't get off its butt and go to war. We're still playing cops and robbers with an asymmetrical military. I told you we'd come back to that. You fight this terrorist organization according to the international laws governing warfare. What we have now is an insurrection and a rebellion being fought by mostly non-uniformed combatants. They are part of a deep state that calls themselves a state. They do. They have called themselves a governing body. They're fighting according to guerrilla warfare terms. Charlie, what type of due process does a guerrilla deserve under the Geneva Convention?
None.
That's exactly right.
They're not uniformed, therefore they don't fall under LOAC.
And if they are uniformed, you are literally at war according to the international laws and treaties of this world. Antifa wears a uniform.
True.
The Geneva Convention says all you have to do to be uniformed is wear a color band around your arm or somewhere on your clothing.
Yeah, just an identify
Occupy
mark.
does that too. So does
Yeah.
BLM, so they can identify each other. That makes them combatants.
So do the Muslims.
Yep. That makes them military combatants that I can't shoot them because you're uniformed. But I dang sure can round them up and put them in camps, and I do not owe them any type of trial. They're prisoners of war.
Yeah, there's this thing about all enemies, foreign and domestic, and we always ignore that part.
Trump has a duty to declare this what it is, an armed insurrection, a real one, not the January 6th false flag, a real one. And the reason we won't do anything about it now is because of the way they held January 6th. They disarmed your willingness to use the law correctly to defend ourselves. We are committing national suicide. That's all I had. Happy joy day, Charlie. You love these shows, man.
I love this show. This was such a wonderful show. It makes me feel so good and warm and fuzzy inside.
I have one last question. Prove me wrong. Well, one last challenge. Prove me wrong.
Unfortunately, yeah, I've tried that and I haven't done well in that.
I've used the definitions and I've even given you the history that lays out the facts and evidence. I can bring all of this into a court of law. I bet you if you let me, I could get a conviction against leftism in this country.
Well, if you had...
You can't put an ideology on trial, but if I could, I bet you I could get a conviction.
If you had a non-corrupt judge and a morally grounded jury, yes.
Oh, you mean like Comey's trial's going to be?
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Compromised judge, compromised lawyer, compromised defendant. Yeah, that's I'm doing good just to keep myself sane right now. Folks, we love each and every one of you. We appreciate you for joining us. We know that this is not always an easy discussion here on this show. We like to ground it in logic and reasoning, consistent and coherent understanding of our world that brings us to definitions and to the facts of history. I've quoted them for you. You can research them. You can drag up everything that I've just done for you today, and you can prove to yourself that all of this is real, has happened. The other side even boasts about all of it. You can get most of this from their own records, which is where it came from. I took my political opponent's words and just laid them out for you. It's looking the monster in the eyeballs, because if nothing else, at least you are better equipped to understand the world around you and have a better idea about how you're going to react to the things that happen going forward. We can't change the past, but you do have to be prepared for what's coming, because if we can't check this and Trump is removed and they steal another election, which they will, pay attention to what's going on in this country. There's already some statistically, and I mean impossible results in these off-year elections that are happening right now. They're just flat out theft going on right now. Why? Because you can't question an election thanks to the left. All of these narratives that you think are just there they're just outrageous. No, they move the Overton window. They create the conspiracy theory bulwark that defends the leftist ideology. You can't talk about insurrection now because that puts you in January 6th world. I can't talk about racial relations being weaponized in this country because now I become a white right-wing supremacist, race baiting, whatever, slave hold. All of this stuff is designed to create political correctness, which is the shield of communism. Well, I don't give a rat's rip about that stuff, man. I'll grab these third rails right on both hands, because if we don't expose them and rip the mask off them and deal with them honestly, intellectually honestly, we can't cure or resolve anything. And I'm not here to stir the pot like so many others on the radio or on the TV or on the internet. We're here to try and understand so that each and every one of us individually can live a more virtuous, more righteous life according to the principles and ideals that we espouse to believe, that we've adopted for ourselves, the principles and ideas that we have worked out and we can defend intellectually. This is why I believe it. And if you don't want to do that, this isn't the show for you. That's okay. Go see the registrar. If this is for you, hey man, we're glad to have you here. If you want us to teach anything, you want us to talk about something, send us an email, joe@theroadtoconcord.com. If you think we're wrong about something, please tell us that too. Just give us a reason why, something we can test, something we can go look into, sink our teeth into. And if it really does help you, consider maybe buying us that $5 cup of coffee every month. Go to the donate page and just sign up. We rely on you. We depend on you. Because without you, I can't afford to do this. We're not here to get rich. We're not here to make a big name for ourselves. We're not here. I don't want advertisers. I want a free voice that can say what I want to say. The only way we do that is if the audience keeps us going. So that's on you. You decide what you want to do with that. Most of you here that are regulars, you're already helping. And God, we thank you. Yahweh bless you for your help. But we love each and every one of you. We do. And we hope and pray that we're doing something that benefits and edifies you and lifts you up and helps you build a better life. I forgot what I'm supposed to teach tomorrow, and if I can't find it, we'll start our dissertation on morality, starting from I think, therefore I am tomorrow, because I kind of want to go there. That way Thursday I can talk about Bigfoot or aliens or Loch Ness Monster or something. So we'll see. Show up tomorrow. See what we have. It'll be a surprise. It's a potluck show. Until then, y'all stay safe. Take care. Yahweh bless. We'll see you tomorrow.